Imagine being torn between your rational mind and an undeniable spiritual pull, between skepticism and the longing for truth. This was the inner battle of young Narendranath Datta, the man who would later become Swami Vivekananda. In this chapter, we dive deeper into the trials and tribulations that shaped the young Narendra's character. As he navigates the challenges of poverty, intellectual conflicts, and the search for spiritual truth, we witness his evolution from a brilliant, skeptical youth to a disciple on the path of enlightenment. Let's uncover the transformative moments that guided him closer to his destiny. Narendra did not have much patience with humdrum reading, nor did he care to absorb knowledge from books as much as from living communion and personal experience. He wanted life to be kindled by life, and thought kindled by thought. He studied Shelley under a college friend, Brajendranath Seal, who later became the leading Indian philosopher of his time, and deeply felt with the poet his pantheism, impersonal love, and vision of a glorified millennial humanity. The universe, no longer a mere lifeless, loveless mechanism, was seen to contain a spiritual principle of unity. Brajendranath, moreover, tried to present him with a synthesis of the supreme Brahman of Vedanta, the universal reason of Hegel, and the gospel of liberty, equality, and fraternity of the French Revolution. By accepting as the principle of morals the sovereignty of the universal reason and the negation of the individual, Narendra achieved an intellectual victory over skepticism and materialism, but no peace of mind. Narendra now had to face a new difficulty. The ballet of bloodless categories of Hegel and his creed of universal reason required of Narain a suppression of the yearning and susceptibility of his artistic nature and joyous temperament, the destruction of the cravings of his keen and acute senses, and the smothering of his free and merry conviviality. This amounted almost to killing his own true self. Further, he could not find in such a philosophy any help in the struggle of a hot-blooded youth against the cravings of the passions, which appeared to him as impure, gross, and carnal. Some of his musical associates were men of loose morals, for whom he felt a bitter and undisguised contempt. Narendra therefore asked his friend Brajendra if the latter knew the way of deliverance from the bondage of the senses, but he was told only to rely upon pure reason and to identify the self with it, and was promised that through this he would experience an ineffable peace. The friend was a Platonic transcendentalist and did not have faith in what he called the artificial prop of grace or the mediation of a guru. But the problems and difficulties of Narendra were very different from those of his intellectual friend. He found that mere philosophy was impotent in the hour of temptation and in the struggle for his soul's deliverance. He felt the need of a hand to save, to uplift, to protect, Shakti or power outside his rational mind that would transform his impotence into strength and glory. He wanted a flesh and blood reality established in peace and certainty, in short, a living guru, who, by embodying perfection in the flesh, would compose the commotion of his soul. The leaders of the Brahmo Samaj, as well as those of the other religious sects, had failed. It was only Ramakrishna who spoke to him with authority as none had spoken before, and by his power brought peace into the troubled soul and healed the wounds of the spirit. At first, Narain feared that the serenity that possessed him in the presence of the Master was illusory, but his misgivings were gradually vanquished by the calm assurance transmitted to him by Ramakrishna out of his own experience of Satchidananda Brahman, existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. This account of the struggle of Narain's collegiate days summarizes an article on Swami Vivekananda by Brajendranath Seal, published in the Life of Swami Vivekananda by the Advaita Ashrama Mayavati, India. Narendra could not but recognize the contrast of the sturm und drang of his soul with the serene bliss in which Sri Ramakrishna was always bathed. He begged the Master to teach him meditation, and Sri Ramakrishna's reply was to him a source of comfort and strength. The Master said, "God listens to our sincere prayer. I can swear that you can see God and talk with Him as intensely as you see me and talk with me. You can hear His words and feel His touch. Further, the master declared, "You may not believe in divine forms, but if you believe in an ultimate reality who is the regulator of the universe, you can pray to him thus, 'O God, I do not know thee. Be gracious to reveal to me thy real nature.' He will certainly listen to you if your prayer is sincere." Narendra, intensifying his meditation under the master's guidance, began to lose consciousness of the body and to feel an inner peace, and this peace would linger even after the meditation was over. Frequently he felt the separation of the body from the soul. Strange perceptions came to him in dreams, producing a sense of exaltation that persisted after he awoke. The guru was performing his task in an inscrutable manner. Narendra's friends observed only his outer struggle, but the real transformation was known to the teacher alone, or perhaps to the disciple too. In 1884, when Narendranath was preparing for the BA examination, his family was struck by a calamity. His father suddenly died, and the mother and children were plunged into great grief. For Vishwanath, a man of generous nature, had lived beyond his means, and his death burdened the family with a heavy debt. Creditors, like hungry wolves, began to prowl about the door, and to make matters worse, certain relatives brought a lawsuit for the partition of the ancestral home. Though they lost it, Narendra was faced thereafter with poverty. As the eldest male member of the family, he had to find the wherewithal for the feeding of 7 or 8 mouths and began to hunt a job. He also attended the law classes. He went about clad in coarse clothes, barefoot, and hungry. Often he refused invitations for dinner from friends, remembering his starving mother, brothers, and sisters at home. He would skip family meals on the fictitious plea that he had already eaten at a friend's house so that the people at home might receive a larger share of the scanty food. The Datta family was proud and would not dream of soliciting help from outsiders. With his companions, Narendra was his usual gay self. His rich friends no doubt noticed his pale face, but they did nothing to help. Only one friend sent occasional anonymous aid, and Narendra remained grateful to him for life. Meanwhile, all his efforts to find employment failed. Some friends who earned money in a dishonest way asked him to join them, and a rich woman sent him an immoral proposal, promising to put an end to his financial distress. But Narendra gave to these a blunt rebuff. Sometimes he would wonder if the world were not the handiwork of the devil, for how could one account for so much suffering in God's creation? One day, after a futile search for a job, he sat down, weary and footsore, in the big park of Kolkata, in the shadow of the Octoloni monument. There some friends joined him, and one of them sang a song, perhaps to console him, describing God's abundant grace. Bitterly, Narain said, "Will you please stop that song? Such fancies are, no doubt, pleasing to those who are born with silver spoons in their mouths. Yes, there was a time when I, too, thought like that, but today these ideas appear to me a mockery." The friends were bewildered. One morning, as usual, Narain left his bed repeating God's name and was about to go out in search of work after seeking divine blessings. His mother heard the prayer and said bitterly, "Hush, you fool. You have been crying yourself hoarse for God since your childhood. Tell me, what has God done for you?" Evidently, the crushing poverty at home was too much for the pious mother. These words stung Narain to the quick. A doubt crept into his mind about God's existence and his providence. It was not in Narain's nature to hide his feelings. He argued before his friends and the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna about God's non-existence and the futility of prayer, even if God existed. His overzealous friends thought he had become an atheist and ascribed to him many unmentionable crimes, which he had supposedly committed to forget his misery. Some of the devotees of the master shared these views. Narendra was angry and mortified to think that they could believe him to have sunk so low. He became hardened and justified drinking and the other dubious pleasures resorted to by miserable people for a respite from their suffering. He said further that he himself would not hesitate to follow such a course if he were assured of its efficacy, openly asserting that only cowards believed in God for fear of hellfire. He argued the possibility of God's non-existence and quoted Western philosophers in support of his position. And when the devotees of the Master became convinced that he was hopelessly lost, he felt a sort of inner satisfaction. A garbled report of the matter reached Sri Ramakrishna, and Narendra thought that perhaps the Master too doubted his moral integrity. The very idea revived his anger. "Never mind," he said to himself. "If good or bad opinion of a man rests on such flimsy grounds, I don't care." But Narendra was mistaken. For one day, Bhavanath, a devotee of the Master and an intimate friend of Narendra, cast aspersions on the latter's character, and the Master said angrily, "Stop, you fool! The mother has told me that it is simply not true. I shan't look at your face if you speak to me again that way." In the next episode, we will witness a turning point in Narendra's life. As he battles with the harsh realities of poverty and doubt, an extraordinary spiritual encounter will lead him to a profound realization about the nature of God and the universe. This experience will not only redefine his faith, but also set him on a path towards renunciation and deeper devotion. Stay tuned as we explore this pivotal moment that reshaped Swami Vivekananda's spiritual journey. Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.